Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at the Birth of Merlin, or The Child Hath Found His Father by William Rowley, possibly with some other people as well. Nobody's really sure, but he's definitely the name that is primarily in the text. It's dated 1622. And was performed by the Prince Charles's men at the Curtain Theatre. Yeah, we've got a certain amount of information about this. It's a tricksy one. We don't have the best copy of the script in the universe, so I'm hoping there aren't any horribly trippy-uppy typos in it, but we shall see as we go along. It has a cast of thousands, which is good because we've got quite a large room. Hopefully the distribution of parts is reasonably equitable, but we shall see. Anyway, reading Gloucester, Joan, and if we get there, some spirits is...
My name is Alexandra, and I'm just happy to be here.
Reading Hermit and Octa is...
Brian Myers, Portland, Oregon.
Reading Toclio, First Saxon, and a Captain is...
Hi, I'm Eric. Here. Reporting live! No, wait,
Reading Second Saxon and Ostorius is...
Greg, and I feel confusion middling.
Don't worry, it's a history play, therefore everything in it is true. Reading Constantia is...
Hello, Helen Good. I think I'm a historian. I think I'm still in Yorkshire.
Reading Aurelius is...
Sarah Blake, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in Germany.
Reading Uter and Edol is...
Alίκη, Chapple, never bright-eyed, always bushy-tailed in Lancashire.
Reading Edwin and Artesia is...
Rachel in Canada.
Reading Cador, Oswald and Proximus is...
Alan, nearly in Suffolk.
And reading Modestia, Donobert and Clown is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm in the Northwestern United States, where it's not even light out yet, just so you know.
And,
well aware.
I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and possibly leaping into the fray if I've horribly messed up the doubling, which is entirely possible. This was done a bit on the thing, so if people start massively talking to themselves, I will try and disentangle that. Otherwise, we will crack on. There is no prologue I can see, so we're going to start with Act 1, Scene 1. Enter Donobert, Gloucester, Cador, Edwin, Constantia, and Modestia.
You teach me language, sir, as one that knows the depth of love I owe unto their virtues, wherein, like a true courtier, I have fed myself with hopes of fair success, and now attend your wished consent to my long suit.
Believe me, youthful lord, time could not give an opportunity more fitting your desires, always provided my daughter's love be suited with my grant.
'Tis the condition, sir, a promise sealed.
Is so, Constantia?
I was content to give him words for oaths. He swore so oft he loved me.
But thou believest him?
He is a man, I hope.
That's in the trial, girl.
However, I am a woman, sir.
The law's on thy side, then. Shalt have a husband, ay, and a worthy one. Take her, brave Cornwall, and make our happiness great as our wishes.
Sir, I thank you.
Double the fortunes of the day, my lord, and crown my wishes too. I have a son here who, in my absence, would protest no less unto your other daughter.
Gloucester, is it so? What says Lord Edwin? Will he protest as much to thee?
Else must she want some of her sister's faith, sir?
Her credulity? Much rather, sir. My lord, you are a soldier, and methinks the height of that profession should diminish all heat of love's desires, being so late employed in blood and ruin.
The more my conscience ties me to repair the world's losses in a new succession.
Necessity, it seems, ties your affections then, and at any rate, I would willingly be thrust upon you. A wife's a dish soon cloys, sir.
Weak and diseased appetites, it may.
Most of your making have dull stomachs, sir. If that be all, girl, thou shalt quicken him. Be kind to him, Modestia. Noble Edwin, let it suffice what's mine in her speaks yours. For consent, let your fair suit go on. She is a woman, sir, and will be one.
You give me comfort, sir.
And enter Toclio.
Now, Toclio.
The king, my honored lords, requires your presence and calls a council for return of answer unto the parling enemy, whose ambassadors are on the way to court.
So suddenly, Chester, it seems, has plied them hard at war. They sue so fast for peace, which, by my advice, they ne'er shall have unless they leave the realm. Come, noble Gloucester, let's attend the king. It lies, sir, in your son to do me pleasure and save the charge of a wedding dinner. If you'll make haste and end your love affairs, one cost may give charge to both my cares.
Exeunt Donobert and Gloucester.
I'll do my best.
Toclio, what's stirring news at court?
Oh, my lord, the court's all filled with rumor, the city with news, and the country with wonder, and all the bells of the kingdom must proclaim it. We have a new holiday coming.
A holiday? For whom? For thee?
Me, madam? As foot right below that any man should make a holiday for me yet. 'Tis in brief, 'tis thus. There is here arrived at court, sent by the Earl of Chester to the king, a man of rare esteem for holiness, a reverend hermit that by miracle not only saved our army, but without aid of man overthrew the pagan host, and with such wonder, sir, as might confirm a kingdom to his faith.
This is strange news indeed. Where is he?
In conference with the king that much respects him.
Trust me, I long to see him.
Faith, you will find no great pleasure in him, for all that I can see, lady, they say he is half a prophet too. Would he could tell me any news of the lost prince? There's 20 talents offered to him that finds him.
Such news was breeding in the morning.
And now it has birth and life, sir. If fortune bless me, I'll once more search those woods where we lost him. I know not yet what fate may follow me.
Exit Toclio.
Fortune go with you, sir. Come, fair mistress. Your sister and Lord Edwin are in game, and all their wits at stake to win the set.
My sister has the hand yet. We had best leave them. She will be out anon as well as I. He wants but cunning to put in a die.
Exeunt Cador and Constantia.
You are a cunning gamester, madam.
It is a desperate game indeed, this marriage, where there's no winning without loss to either.
Why? What but your perfection, noble lady, can bar the worthiness of this my suit? If so you please, I count my happiness from difficult obtaining. You shall see my duty and observance.
There shall be place to neither, noble sir. I do beseech you, let this mild reply give answer to your suit. For here I vow, if e'er I changed my virgin name, by you it gains or loses.
My wishes have their crown.
Let them confine you then. As to my promise, you give faith and credence.
In your command, my willing absence speaks it.
And exit Edwin.
Noble and virtuous. Could I dream of marriage, I should affect thee, Edwin. Oh, my soul, here something tells me that the best of creatures, these models of the world, weak man and woman, should have their souls, their making, life, and being to some more excellent use. If what the sense calls pleasure were our ends, we might justly blame great nature's wisdom, who rear the building of so much art and beauty to entertain a guest so far uncertain, so imperfect. If only speech distinguish us from beasts, we know no inequality of birth or place, but still to fly from goodness. Oh, how base were life at such a rate! No, that power that gave to man his being, speech, and wisdom, gave it for thankfulness. To him alone that made me thus, may I thence truly know, I'll pay to him, not man, the love I owe.
And exit. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got wedding plans. There's some fighting going on. Not everything's a little up in the air, all over the place. How are we finding it so far? We're getting a nice bit of speechifying there. There's lots of all sorts of textual questions about precisely which bits are in prose and which are in verse. It's all a bit choppy, but those are things to worry about another time. Thoughts in the room, Helen?
Yeah, I mean, normally in Act 1, where everybody comes in and tells everybody else the plot so the audience gets it, you get a bit more information about strange things like lost princes in forests. I felt that was skimmed over pretty fast.
Right?
Considering that it's obviously going to be a major plot point.
I don't think we even get the prince's name.
Right?
Lost Prince, forests, maybe you don't need to. You just toss that little grenade over your shoulder and you're expecting the audience to get it by now. It's the 1620s, for goodness sake. They've heard it all before.
True.
But yes, you're right. It's very brief. It chops along very quickly. Alexandra.
Yeah, there's also something very brief and functional, and I think to us as a modern audience quite hilarious about I'd like to have your daughter for my son. Yeah, can my son have your other daughter? Good, great, fantastic. Okay, on to other business. Yeah, it's sort of, that was weird. And then I just want to point out that we have a conversation in the side chat going about what? A woman alone speaking to the audience about her wants and them not being marriage? This will not end well. So yeah.
Yes, in other rooms, we are having similar conversations with similar plays from about this time. So it may be a thing in the air in the 1620s. Eric.
Yeah, I was just amused by the whole, hey, there's a war on, we have to go do something, like sort of, we're busy talking about marriage, and then suddenly like a plot point enters and then leaves.
Yes, there's a little bit of world building. There's a world over there. There's some war. There's some stuff. I'm sure we'll get more into that as we go on. But, they're just sprinkling little things. They're doing the main thing that the characters need to do, and then they're just sprinkling little bits in passing. And I hopefully that's going to pay off and be quite nice, and we'll quite like that. Helen.
Yeah, if this is 1620s, then the court was pretty disreputable.
Yes, late Jacobean. James only has a few more years left, and yeah, there's a lot of problems in the country. Other thoughts before we move on? Anyone want to leap in?
Well,
Brian.
I hesitate to say this, but it seems to me that the syntax here and there is much harder to follow than some other plays. At a high level, it's not at all hard to follow. You know what's going on. I'm not mystified about what the characters want and what they're after, but lines like the Modestia's last soliloquy, I found quite difficult to parse as she was reading it. And as I'm going slowly over it now, it's still difficult. And I don't know if I can find it quickly. There was another line about Edwin's happiness. I count my happiness from difficult obtaining. I mean, you get it quickly, but that isn't the set of words I would normally use from the difficulty of obtaining my happiness. I guess it doesn't quite work for me, and I suspect that there's a little extra work for the audience in other places too in piecing this together. I wonder if that's just me, or if it's a mark of the style or something that evolved into the theater later. It's not as bad as Troilus as well. I was going to say something. I was going to
say something you shouldn't, weren't you? I could
let's
see
just say there are certainly harder things. But...
There are harder things out there. Yes, and it may be it might just be that there are some mild editorial things that we just need to double check, that there might just be something wrong with our text. But yes, it might also be just the nature of the transmission of the text as well. There's lots of questions. I mean, there's a few times when I'm looking at it laid out, and there's a few bits laid out in prose, and I'm thinking that's probably trying to be verse. But then I'm looking at some of the verse and wondering if it's trying to be prose. So there are lots of little questions about actually how regular this text is and whether it needs some work. Lynn?
Yes, agreed that the syntax is difficult to parse. I really didn't know what I was saying in that last little monologue. You get the sense that, human beings are, sort of the pinnacle of God's creation. We're meant for higher things than bodily pleasure. And I would really rather dedicate my life to God. That is, like, I really don't want to get married. I want to be a nun. And we're going to say that in the most complicated way possible. I actually, my guess would be it doesn't have to do with transmission or anything like that. My guess would be that this sort of style of writing, the difficult syntax, the obscure language, is the author deliberately trying to sound medievally. I mean, this was sort of set in the distant mystical past. Aurelius, King of Britain, like what? Who? So I think this is Rowley's attempt to make it sound, period, basically, to make it sound like it took place in a sort of distant.
It certainly aims at a kind of heightened sense of a more wrought prose. But if it were specifically aiming at antiquity, wouldn't we expect something more like Spenser, with a very different vocabulary?
There is we have had these syntax problems with plays of this period. The few that we've done, we haven't done that many plays from the 1620s, but we have done a smattering, and it does seem that there are things going on in the way people are writing around here that seems to be a lot more prevalent. Not automatically so, but yeah, there's a certain clarity thing. Eric?
I was actually just wondering whether we've been told who we're fighting against, because there was this thing about there was a war on. He came, the prince's lost, so on and so forth. 20 talents were offered to find the prince, which is irrelevant. But then the person who's come in sort of to chat to the king is also the person who resolved the war situation by terrifying the pagan hordes or something. So there's a part of me going, are we in a Christian universe, or is it just that they don't really know the difference?
I don't know whether the text has given us the precise data to answer those questions. I know the answer to that because I'm fairly certain I know where what this text is doing, but I don't know if the text has told us that, so I'm not going to try and answer that question at this point. But it's a very good point about what this play is doing and the forces that it's ranging. So let's gather some more data, and we'll be able to probably figure out precisely who's on whose side and what they believe in. So to that purpose, we will go to Act 1, Scene 2. There is a flourish of cornets. I haven't been able to do this for ages. Enter Aurelius, King of Britain, Donobert, Gloucester, Cador, Edwin, Toclio, Oswald, and attendants.
No tiding of our brother yet. 'Tis strange. So near the court, and in our own land too, and yet no news of him. Oh, this loss tempers the sweetness of our happy conquest with much untimely sorrow.
Royal sir, his safety being unquestioned should to time leave the redress of sorrow. Were he dead or taken by the foe, our fatal loss had wanted no quick herald to disclose it.
That hope alone sustains me. Nor will we be so ungrateful unto heaven to question what we fear with what we enjoy is answer of our message yet returned from To question what we fear with what we enjoy. Is answer of our message yet returned from that religious man, the holy hermit, sent by the Earl of Chester to confirm us in that miraculous act? But 'twas no less, our army being in rout, nay, quite overthrown. As Chester writes, even then this holy man, armed with his cross and staff, went smiling on, and boldly fronts the foe, at sight of whom the Saxons stood amazed, for to their seeming, above the hermit's head appeared such brightness, such clear and glorious beams, as if our men marched all in fire, wherein the pagans fled, and by our troops were all to death pursued.
It is full of wonder, sir.
Oh, Gloucester, he's a jewel, worth a kingdom. What's Oswald with his answer?
'Tis here, my royal lord.
In writing? Will he not sit with us?
His orisons performed, he bade me say he would attend with full submission.
Proceed to council, then. And let some give order. The ambassadors being come to take our answer, they have admittance. Oswald, Toclio, be at your charge. And now, my lords, observe the holy counsel of this reverend hermit. As you respect your safety, limit not that only power that hath protected you. Trust not an open enemy too far. He's yet a loser and knows you have won. Mischiefs not ended are but then begun. Anselm the hermit.
Powerful and pithy, which my advice confirms. No man leaves physic when his sickness slakes, but doubles the receipts. The word of peace seems fair to bloodshot eyes, but being applied with such a medicine as blinds all the sight, argues desire of cure, but not of art.
You argue from defects. If both the name and the condition of the peace be one, it is to be preferred, and in the other made by the Saxon, I see naught repugnant.
The time of truce required for 30 days carries suspicion in it, since half that space will serve to strengthen their weakened regiment.
Who in less time will undertake to free our country from them?
Leave that unto our fortune.
Is not our bold and hopeful general still master of the field, their legions fallen, the rest entrenched for fear, half starved and wounded? And shall we now give o'er our fair advantage? For heaven, my lord, the danger is far more in trusting their words than to their weapons.
Enter Oswald.
The ambassadors are come, sir.
Conduct them in. We are resolved, my lord, since policy failed in the beginning, it shall have no hand in the conclusion. That heavenly power that hath so well begun their fatal overthrow, I know can end it. From which fair hope myself will give them answer.
Flourish of cornets. Enter Artesia with the Saxon lords.
What's here? A woman orator?
Oh, peace, Donobert. Speak. What are you, lady?
The sister of the Saxon general, warlike Ostorius, the East Angles king. My name, Artesia, who, in terms of love, brings health and peace to great Aurelius, wishing she may return as fair a present as she makes tender of.
The fairest present ere mine eyes were blessed with. Come on the chair there for this Saxon beauty. Sit, lady, we'll confer. Your warlike brother sues for peace, you say?
With endless love unto your state and person.
He sent a moving orator, believe me. What thinkst thou, Donobert?
Believe me, sir, were I but young again, this gilded pill might take my stomach quickly.
True. Thou art old. How soon we do forget our own defects. Fair damsel, oh, my tongue turns traitor and will betray my heart, sister, to our enemy. Step! Her beauty mazes me. I cannot speak. If I but look on her. What's that we did conclude?
This, royal lord.
Oh, pish, thou canst not utter it. Fairest of creatures, Tell the king, your brother, that we in love and honour to our country command his armies to depart our realm. But if you please, fair soul, Lord Donobert, deliver you our pleasure.
I shall, sir. Lady, return and certify your brother.
Thou art too blunt and rude. Return so soon? Fie. Let us stay and send some messenger to certify our pleasure.
What means your grace?
To give her time of rest to her long journey. We would not willingly be thought uncivil.
Great King of Britain, let it not seem strange to embrace the princely offers of a friend, whose virtues, with thine own, in fairest merit, both states in peace and love, may now inherit.
She speaks of love again. Sure, 'tis my fear she knows I do not hate her.
Be then thyself, most great Aurelius, and let not envy, nor a deeper sin in these thy counsellors, deprive thy goodness of that fair honour. We, in seeking peace, give first to thee, who never used to sue. But force our wishes, yet, if this seem light, oh, let my sex, though worthless your respect, take the report of thy humanity, whose mild and virtuous life loud fame displays, as being o'ercome by one so worthy praise.
She has an angel's tongue. Speak still.
This flattery is gross. Sir, hear no more on it. Lady, these childish compliments are needless. You have your answer, and believe it, madam, his grace, though young, doth wear within his breast too grave a counsellor to be seduced by smooth flattery or oily words.
I come not, sir, to woo him.
'Twere folly if you should. You must not wed him.
Shame, take thy tongue. Being old and weak thyself, thou dost, and looking on thine own defects, speak'st what thou wouldst wish in me. Do I command the deeds of others? Mine own act not free? Be pleased to smile or frown, we respect neither. My will and rule shall stand and fall together. Most fair Artesia, see the king descends to give thee welcome with these warlike Saxons, and now on equal terms both sues and grants. Instead of truce, let a perpetual league seal our united bloods in holy marriage. Send the East Angles kings this happy news, that thou, with me, hast made a league forever, and added to his state a friend and brother. Speak, dearest love, dare you confirm this title?
I were no woman to deny a good so high and noble to my fame and country.
Live then a queen in Britain.
Gloucester, shock
He
horror.
means to marry her?
Yes, he shall marry the devil first, marry a pagan and an idolatress.
One quickly.
She was wooed before she came, sure, or the purpose to conclude the match.
Who dares oppose our will? My lord of Gloucester, be you ambassador unto our brother, the brother of our queen, Artesia. Tell him for such our entertainment looks him. Our marriage, adding to the happiness of our intended joys, man's good or ill. In this like waves agree, come double still.
And we're going to pause there. The Hermit's going to come on in a moment, but I think we'll just take a moment to take all this in, because if nothing else, there is a clarity of purpose to this scene that is doing lots of interesting stuff. So there's been a war, there's been a bit of a parley being organised by Artesia, and Aurelius just goes whoof, whoa. Basically, and there's lots of questions actually in the chat as to how many of Aurelius's lines are actually asides. Because there's definitely one or two where it's sort of she speaks of love again, and stuff like that, where it's an interesting question actually how that functions, and just also love the way some of them have to be sort of asides, because it's this case of when it says, "Hey, do you fancy marrying me?" and it's like everyone else just goes, "What?" And she says yes, and yeah, it's doing a lot of interesting things. Aurelius up on his throne a lot of the time because he descends from it, so there's some throne descending, which means some throne placement, presumably for this. When all the cornets are playing, presumably they bring in some sitting implement. Lynn,
let's not forget that at the very beginning of the scene we have more plot stuff that. The king's brother, and presumably his main general in the war, is missing. And in the previous scene, we learned that there's a missing prince. So there's a couple of
same guy.
Is that the same person? That's the same guy. Okay.
Maybe.
It must be because Aurelius is evidently young. So I don't think he has it can't be his son that's missing. When they said something about the missing prince, I thought, oh, that's the king's son and heir to the kingdom. But yeah, the missing prince must be the same guy. So yeah, that's a plot thread that we kind of lose track of in this sort of weird wooing scene. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
And of course, you've got to remember that the circumstance whereby some kind of truce can be arranged is all down to this hermit. This hermit guy who we're hearing so much about, Anselm, who's apparently just marches up to people and says "Aha!" and manages to vanquish foes. So yeah, we've got the Britons and we've got the Saxons. I think we've got clear Saxon invaders coming on here against the British host, so that's sort of what this where the sides are coming on, and so we can infer from earlier that the Saxons are pagans, and the good Britons are all Christians somehow, which I'm sure we can unpack more later. Eric,
I was gonna say that I think the hermit is basically Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno. We just appears, does his thing, and then leaves.
Other thoughts from the room as to where we are? Helen?
Yeah, I mean, you can play it, no doubt, a number of ways, but my immediate thought was that she set out to catch him, and she did. I mean, her aim in all this was to trap the king into a peace favourable to the Saxons by her lures, her wiles. But I suppose you could play it the other way.
Aurelius, did you feel wooed? Did you feel the woo on you?
Yeah, I did. I felt the. No, I'm not going to say that. You know what I was going to say. I put in the chat, I'm getting strong Judith and Holofernes vibes off this. I'm expecting them to find the king the morning after the wedding dead in his bed with his head cut off, because she's been sent, from the other side to, lure and then murder the opposing general. King in this case. So yeah, I think he is not thinking with his brains, put it that way. And
not those brains anyway.
Not those brains. And he is also a king. He's not a general. So to be fair, he's probably inherited this crown, and he's probably rubbish at being kingly. He's clearly not got a strategic bone in his body. Maybe he's only 18. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, he does definitely strike me as a young king from what he said, but maybe he's super young. Maybe he's just, I don't know. But he's clearly not very bright.
Okay, Lynn, and then
He wouldn't be super young because his younger brother, presumably, is running the army. So,
but
I mean, they could be quite close in age, but he he can't be like 15.
No, true.
But he may not be a general. He might just be an administrator. He might be very good at the accounting.
And just super stupid.
Yeah.
Rachel. No. Okay, let's move on. No, Alexandra, then we'll move on. No.
It's fine. It wasn't massively important. I was just going to add to the idea of whether she came with a plan or how this developed. Certainly, I love the fact that very concisely the people in the scene are going, well, he's won her quickly. She was wooed before she came, or came off purpose to conclude the match. So they're all kind of going, no, this is a mercenary deal. This is the situation here. No one's under any illusion, except potentially the king. And I also love the cleverness of, who says we shouldn't do this? You. Go and give the news to the other party that we are.
Yes. It's either that or the Lord of Gloucester was the only one who didn't take a step backwards. Anyway, we have he's just sent that Lord of Gloucester presumably has possibly exited at that point. It's an interesting question whether that we've had a question about exit lines earlier, which we're not really getting from this text, which is interesting, because sometimes you don't get exit lines, exit cues, because of course actors need to worry about that, but backstage documents don't always need to know that. Anyway, we always have entrances, hopefully. Anyway, enter Hermit.
Who's this? The Hermit! Welcome, my happiness! Our country's hope! Most reverend holy man! I wanted but thy blessings to perfect the infinite sum of my felicity.
Alack, sweet prince, that happiness is yonder. Felicity and thou art far asunder. This world can never give it.
Thou art deceived. See here what I have found. Beauty, alliance, peace, and strength of friends, all in this all-exceeding excellence. The league's confirmed.
With whom, dear lord?
With the great brother of this beauteous woman, the royal Saxon king.
Oh, then I see and fear thou art too near thy misery. What magic could so link thee to this mischief? By all the good that thou hast reaped by me, stand further from destruction.
Speak as a man, and I shall hope to obey thee.
Idolaters, get hence! Fond king, let go! Thou huckst thy ruin, and thy country's woe.
Well spoke, old father. To him, bait him soundly. Now, by heaven's blessed lady, I can scarce keep patience.
What devil is this?
That cursed Christian by whose hellish charms our army was overthrown.
Why do you dally, sir? O tempt not heaven. Warm not a serpent in your naked bosom. Discharge them from your court.
Thou speakst like madness. Command the frozen shepherd to the shade when he sits warm in the sun, the fever-sick to add more heat unto his burning pain. Those may obey. 'Tis less extremity than thou enjoin'st to me. Cast but thine eye upon this beauty. Do it, I'll forgive thee, though jealousy in others finds no pardon. Then say thou dost not love. I shall then swear thou art immortal and no earthly man. Oh, blame them my mortality, not me.
It is thy weakness brings thy misery, unhappy prince.
Be milder in thy doom.
'Tis you that must endure heaven's doom, which fallen remembers just.
Thou shalt not live to see it. How fares my lord? If my poor presence breed dislike, great prince, I am no such neglected soul will seek to tie you to your word.
My word, dear love? May my religion, crown, state, and kingdom fail when I fail thee. Command Earl Chester to break up the camp without disturbance to our Saxon friends. Send every hour swift post to hasten on the king, her brother, to conclude this league. This endless happy peace of love and marriage, till when provide for revels, and give charge that naught be wanting which make our triumphs sportful and free to all. If such fair blood engender ill, man must not look for good.
And they all exit, apart from the Hermit. And they all exit with a bit of a flourish. There we go. Enter Modestia reading in a book.
How much the oft report of this blessed hermit hath won on my desires. I must behold him, and sure this should be he. Oh, the world's folly, proud earth and dust, how low a price bears goodness. All that should make man absolute shines in him. Much reverend sir, may I without offence give interruption to your holy thoughts?
What would you, lady?
That which till now ne'er found a language in me. I am in love.
In love with what?
With virtue.
There's no blame in that.
Nay, sir, with you, with your religious life, your virtue, goodness. If there be a name to express affection greater than that word, that would I learn and utter. Reverend sir, if there be anything to bar my suit, be charitable and expose it. Your prayers are the same orisons which I shall number. Holy sir, keep not instruction back from willingness. Possess me, that knowledge leads you on to this humility. For well I know, where great is good, you would not live so, were greatness good, you would not live so low.
Are you a virgin?
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Your name?
Modestia.
Your name and virtues meet, a modest virgin. Live ever in this sanctimonious way to heaven and happiness. There's good in you. I must instruct you further. Come, look up. Behold yon firmament. There sits a power whose footstool is this earth. Oh, learn this lesson and practice it. He that will climb so high must leave no joy beneath to move his eye.
And exit Hermit.
I apprehend you, sir. On heaven I fix my love. Earth gives us grief. Our joys are all above. For this was man in innocence naked born, to show us wealth hinders our sweet return.
And exit Modestia. And that's the end of Act 1. Lots of interesting things going on here. The Hermit immediately comes on, does the Tiresias thing of going, King, you're doing something dumb. And the King says, no, I'm not. I was actually surprised the King didn't really get very cross, actually. He just went, have you met my wife? Would you just look at my wife? Isn't my wife gorgeous? It's all right. I'm not going to get jealous. You go ahead and fall in love. It's fine. And the Saxon lords are going, oh no, to have the scary Christian hermit. Oh no, he'll do good things. And then we get this contrasting scene with Modestia, and yes, for a modern ears, are you a virgin is a slightly creepy, weird question. But I think within the context of the play, it isn't as unreasonable as it sounds, especially considering what they're already talking about. It is still odd, but it is within context. I think that it is doing a thing. But yes, having a sudden coughing episode after being asked that question is a perfectly reasonable action. It was perfect timing. Sarah.
I'm not suggesting we do this because it would probably fail miserably, but I'm getting quite intense high school vibes from this play. Like this king, okay, his younger brother's head of the army, so he's maybe not that old, but but I can just see them all. Like he's there. He's literally the prom king, and he's just like, he's got all his hangers on. And then that last scene, I mean, she was just, she's already said, like, I don't want to marry, I want to be a nun, I want to devote myself to God. And then in this scene too, she just came across as like a real like emo teen. And then the hermit was like, the hot supply teacher or school counselor who's just turned up, for that session, and she's met him for the first time, and all her thoughts about, maybe I want to devote myself to God. She's met him and she's like, oh no, I definitely know I want to devote myself to God. It's just, it just strikes me that there's a lot of very young, inexperienced kind of people, a lot of people who seem to be experiencing emotion for the first time going on here. I mean, the fact that the king is falling for this ruse is just like, oh, bless. Yes, he's an idiot, but like it's like he's never encountered a beautiful woman before, and that's why his reaction is so kind of over the top. I don't know, there's a really kind of youthful quality to it that is making it quite endearing, but also you're just like, oh, this is going to end really badly.
Yes, I think there's something even more. No, I'll come back to it. I'll go to Lynn then Eric.
No, I was just going to totally agree that there's something sort of there's a sort of adolescent extraness about all of this. That King falls hopelessly in love at first sight, and and even Modestia, who wants the religious life. It's there's just something. There's just something sort of adolescent about it all.
But it is interesting that we've got this character who does have a very determined idea of what she wants out of her life, in opposition to what her parents want. It's unlike the usual situation where they want to marry who they want to marry. I want to do it, and it's just, no, I just like to not get married and commit myself to God. And if that's what she wants to do, then that's fine. But it's an interesting conflict in that sense. And as a contrast to what's just been happening with the king, it's really interesting the way the scenes are throwing slightly different contrasting elements. Eric.
I was going to say that you could do it in both ways, where you could go like, I'm going to devote myself to God, like really intensely, or sort of like, I'm going to devote sort of depending on how the person reacts to the hermit. Because like the hermit is also like, he seems to be very intensely prophetic about the sort of political situation, but as soon as he meets Modestia, he's like, what the fuck, what do you want from me? Like, it's very because she goes, I'm in love, and he's like, in love with what? So how is this my problem? It just feels like that, which is like the complete opposite.
I seem to have lost everyone. Please still be there. Hello. Strange blip there. Horrible things went wrong with computers. So we finished looking at Act 1. We're going to start Act 2, Scene 1 now. So we're going to have enter clown. And with the clown, his sister Joan, great with child.
Away, follow me no further. I'm none of thy brother. What? Great with child? Great with child, and knows not who's the father on't. I'm ashamed to call thee sister.
Believe me, brother, he was a gentleman.
Nay, I believe that he gives arms and legs too, and has made you the herald to blaze 'em. But Joan, sister Joan, can you tell me his name that did it? How shall we call my cousin your bastard when we have it?
Alas, I know not the gentleman's name, brother. I met him in these woods, the last great hunting. He was so kind and proffered me so much, as I had not the heart to ask him more.
Not his name? Why, this shows your country breeding. Now, had you been brought up in the city, you'd have got a father first and the child afterwards. Hast thou no marks to know him by?
He had most rich attire, a fair hat and feather, a gilt sword, and most excellent hangers.
Pox on his hangers. Would it been gelt for his labour?
Had you but heard him swear, you would have thought.
Aye, as you did. Swearing and lying goes together still. Did his oaths get you with child? We shall have a roaring boy then, in faith. Well, sister, I must leave you.
Dear brother, stay. Help me to find him out. I'll ask no further.
Svut, who should I find? Who should I ask for?
Alas, I know not. He uses in these woods, and there are witnesses of his oath and promise.
We are like to have a hot suit on't, when our best witness is but a knight of the post.
Do but inquire this forest. I'll go with you. Some happy fate may guide us till we meet him.
Meet him? And what name shall we have for him when we meet him? Svut, thou neither knowst him nor canst tell what to call him. Was ever a man tired with such a business, to have a sister got with child and know not who did it? Well, you shall see him. I'll do my best for you. I'll make proclamation. If these woods and trees, as you say, will bear any witness, let them answer. Oh, yes, if there be any man that wants a name, will come in for conscience' sake, and acknowledge himself to be a whoremaster, he shall have that laid to his charge in an hour, he shall not be rid of in an age. If he have lands, he shall have an heir. If he have patience, he shall have a wife. And if he have neither lands nor patience, he shall have a whore. So ho, boy, so ho, so.
So ho, boy, so ho, illa ho, illa ho.
Hark, hark, sister, there's one hollows to us. What a wicked world is this! A man cannot so soon name a whore, but a knave comes presently. And see where he is. Stand close a while, sister.
Enter Prince Uter.
Like a voice that echo spake, but oh, my thoughts are lost forever in amazement. Could I but meet a man to tell her beauties, these trees would bend their tops to kiss the air that from my lips should give her praises up.
He talks of a woman, sister.
This may be his brother.
View him well. You see, he has a fair sword, but his hangers are fallen.
Here did I see her first, here view her beauty. Oh, had I known her name, I had been happy.
Sister, this is he sure. He knows not thy name either. Couple of wise fools, if faith, to get children and not know one another.
Yon weeping leaves, upon whose tender cheeks doth stand a flood of tears at my complaint. You heard my vows and oaths.
La, he's been a great swearer too. 'Tis he, sister.
For having overtook her, as I have seen a forward bloodhound strip the swifter of the cry, ready to seize his wished hopes upon the sudden view, struck with astonishment at his arrived prey, instead of seizure, stands at fearful bay. Or like to Marius' soldiers, whom o'ertook the eyesight-killing Gorgon at one look, made everlasting stand. So feared my power, whose cloud aspired the sun, dissolved a shower. Pygmalion, then I tasted thy sad fate, whose ivory picture and my fair were one. Our dotage past imagination, I saw and felt desire.
Poxy fingering. Did he feel, sister?
But enjoyed not, oh, fate! Thou hast thy days and nights to feed on calm affection. One poor sight was all, converts my pleasure to perpetual thrall. Embracing thine, thou loftiest breath and desire, so I relating mine will here expire. For here I vow to you, ye mournful plants, who were the first made happy by her fame, never depart hence till I know her name.
Put me thy hand, sister. The child has found his father. This is he, sure as I am a man. Had I been a woman, these kind words would have won me. I should have had a great belly too, that's certain. Well, I'll speak to him. Most honest and fleshly-minded gentleman, give me your hand, sir.
Ah! What art thou that thus rude and boldly darest take notice of a wretch so much allied to misery as I am?
Nay, sir, for our alliance, I shall be found to be a poor brother-in-law of your worships. The gentleman you spake on is my sister. You shall see what a clue she spreads. Her name is Joan Gotut. I am her elder, but she's been at it before me. 'Tis a woman's fault. Pox of this bashfulness. Come forward, Jug. Prithee speak to him.
Have you e'er seen me, lady?
Seen ye? Ha ha! Seems she's felt you too. Here's a young go-to coming. She's my sister, sir. We all love to go to it as well as your worship. She's a maid yet, but you may make her a wife when you please, sir.
I am amazed with wonder. Tell me, woman, what sin have you committed worthy this?
You not know me, sir?
Know thee, as I do thunder, hell, and mischief, witch, scullion, hag.
Oh, I see he'll marry her. He speaks so like a husband.
Death. I will cut their tongues out for this blasphemy. Strumpet, felon, where have you ever seen me?
Speak for yourself with a pox to ye.
Slaves, I'll make you curse yourselves for this temptation.
Oh, sir, if ever you did speak to me, it was in smoother phrase, in fairer language.
And consume me if I ever saw thee. My rage o'erflows my blood. All patience flies me.
And he beats her.
Hold, I beseech you, sir. I have nothing to say to you.
Help! Help! Father!
And there we will pause to take in a complicated subplot that is going on here with the clown and Joan Gotut and Uter, who's in love with someone at great length, of which yes, the clown is seeing an opportunity to try and suggest paternity. Lynn, then Alan.
Well, it looks like poor impulse control is a family trait.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alan.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you mentioned that this was Prince Charles's men, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
Was that boys' company? Because
I don't think so.
There were elements in there which definitely sounded like boys' company humor riffs.
I feel it was just generic clown riffs myself. I don't think it is. I think it's an adult company. I will have a quick look. We're a little out of my wheelhouse in terms of dates and companies and things. I will just quickly look that up. Other thoughts in the room on this this thing? Helen.
I don't think the clown's necessarily being opportunist. I think he genuinely believes that he's found the happy solution and that this is the man. Also, unless there's been an awful lot of magic at play, I get the feeling that the Saxon lady passing through on her way to see the king may have been the lady that Uter saw.
Mm.
That was my feeling, that may be it.
any of those people out there who know various versions of the Arthurian legend may be pulling a few threads together at this point, but it's fine. They get the title of the play, and yes, King Charles's Men by the suffix men is a fairly adult company. We have this cross crossing of paths here. Other thoughts before we complete the scene? Alexandra?
Just from the way that the brother seems to keep going. Well, speak for yourself, woman. For a modern production, I don't know if this would have been the intention at the time, but for a modern production, you could very well play this as she realizes very early on, this is not the first, she doesn't recognize this man. But her brother's got it into his head that, oh, you're pining after someone whose name you don't know. He's pining after someone whose name he doesn't know. Clearly, this is the match. And he's just going for it. And she's somewhere trying to, disappear into the background and can't. But one thing I just wanted to point out is this thing that we don't often see, or we don't often see it unprovoked, which is violence against women. Particularly in this case, we have against a pregnant woman who has not instigated this herself in a way that, in some other scenes we might think, oh, it's a nagging wife, or it's some sort of village hag that deserves a beating. This is just random person is inconvenient. Which brings me to the question of, would we have wanted to sympathize with Uter? Because in a modern production, that will not happen as of this point. That will never be possible now.
Yes, and I certainly feel in a modern production, beating the clown is sort of fine. And maybe we just, because he's actually the annoying one here in this situation, much considerably more than she is. So I think we could just quietly move it sideways, because early modern comedy violence is much more prevalent than it is today, it is slightly odd in that particular moment for that to be going on. Eric?
I have to admit, despite the problematic nature of this, the line about "know thee as I do, Thunderhell and Mischief," and the clown goes, "I see he will marry her." He speaks so like a husband. It's sort of, depending on how you play that, it could just it could land really, really funnily, or it could just be oh shit, ew, yeah.
And in this particular instance of the person who was particularly nice to Joan, it's like if this is her brother, the clown, and someone turns up and is nice to her, so she doesn't have the heart to ask anything more of him after the lovely time they had together. One gets a sensation of what her normal relations with people is. We'll find out more about this plotline. It will go somewhere. But let us finish the scene as terrible violence is occurring. In theory, comedy violence. Enter Toclio and Oswald.
Make haste, sir. This way the sound came. It was in the wood.
See where she is, and the prince. The price of all our wishes.
The prince, say ye? Has made a poor subject of me, I'm sure.
Sweet prince, noble Uter, speak. How fare you, sir?
Yes, recall yourself. Your fearful absence hath won too much already on the grief of our sad king, from whom our labouring search hath this fair success in meeting you.
His silence and looks argued distraction.
Nay, he's mad. Sure, he will not acknowledge my sister, nor the child neither.
Let us entreat your grace along with us. Your sight will bring new life to the king, your brother.
Will you go, sir?
Yes, anywhither. Guide me. All's hell. I see man may change air, but not his misery.
Exeunt Uter and Toclio.
lend me one word with you, sir?
Well said, sister. He has a feather and fair hangers too. This may be he.
What would you, fair one?
Sure, I have seen you in these woods ere this.
Trust me, never. I never saw this place till at this time my friend conducted me.
The more's my sorrow, then.
Would I could comfort you. I'm a bachelor, it seems, but you have a husband, or you've been foully o'ershot else?
A woman's fault. We're all subject to go to it, sir.
And enter Toclio.
Oswald, away, the prince will not stir a foot without you.
I'm coming. Farewell, woman.
Prithee, make haste.
Good sir, but one word with you ere you leave us.
With me, Freitas.
She'll have a fling at him too. Child must have a father.
Have you ne'er seen me, sir?
Seen thee? Foot, I've seen many fair faces in my time. Prithee, look up, and do not weep so. If you're a pretty wanton, I've seen this face before.
It is enough, though you ne'er see me more.
And sinks down.
She's fallen. This place is enchanted, sure. Look to the woman fellow.
Exit Toclio.
Oh, she's dead. She's dead. As you are a man, stay and help her, sir. Joan, sister Joan. Why, Joan, go to it, I say. Will you cast yourself away? And your child and me too? What do you mean, sister?
Oh, give me pardon, sir. 'Twas too much joy oppressed my loving thought. I know you were too noble to deny me. Where is he?
Who? The gentleman? He's gone, sister.
Oh, I am undone then. Run, tell him I did but faint for joy. Dear brother, haste! Where dost thou stay? Oh, never cease till he give answer to thee.
He? Which he? What do you call him, Trow?
Unnatural brother, show me the path he took. Where dost thou dally? Speak. Oh, which way went he?
Well, this way, that way. Through the bushes here.
Through fire the journey's easy, winged with sweet desire.
Exit Joan.
Payday. There's some hope of this yet. I'll follow her for kindred's sake. If she miss of her purpose now, she'll challenge all she finds, I see. For if ever we meet with a two-legged creature in the whole kingdom, the child shall have a father. That's certain.
Exit Clown. Okay, so it's a ultimate test of paternity going on here throughout as our running gag in the play, probably, he said. And yes, I just for those who are perhaps worried, we will get an answer to the question. There is a definite answer. Place your bets now as to who it will be. Yeah, thoughts on the room. It's a tricky bit of comedy business. I think it probably could still work. There's a bit of fancy footwork to do to make this land today, but I don't think it's wholly impossible. But yeah, there are some challenges, shall we say. Thoughts on the room. Eric, I think I saw waving.
Yeah, I find it interesting because it's kind of, I mean, aside from, the poor impulse control that we talked about earlier, it's interesting how the princes or king's brothers, whatever, men, the nobles who are not basically high enough status to be ruling the kingdom are more kind to the peasants, so to speak, than the actual people in charge who, it would have been, they would have been, gone to, I don't know, maybe not beauty school or whatever, or gentle, sort of savoir vivre kind of thing. But they're nicer to Joan than anyone else, including her brother, though her brother is kind of a bit not the brightest button in the drawer. Yeah.
I'm not so sure they are. I think they are. They're stopped in the woods for 2 minutes, who's going, and there's someone tries to sell them a baby, and they sort of go, no, sorry, I've already signed up for this subscription. Thank you, goodbye, and sort of run away. I mean, there are some nice comic beats in there. I mean, the clown's comic beat of, or the comic beat of, oh, bountiful sir, thank you so much. Oh, he's gone. Is a solid comedy. There are solid comedy beats within there. It's sort of just the overall shape of it all is just a bit awkward, because of just so many things. So yeah, it's a really interesting sort of flavor of what this text is doing.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? No, I hear silence. I hear silence in the room. Okay, we will go on into Act 2, Scene 2. Now, I don't know how far we're going to get into this. We're just going to keep going until approximately we run out of time. But I don't think we're going to get to the end of Act 2, Scene 2. So anyway, there is some loud music. I don't know what the loud music is, I don't know, something. Enter 2 with the sword and mace. Cador, Edwin, 2 bishops. Aurelius, Ostorius, leading Artesia, crowned. Constantia, Modestia, Octa, Proximus, a magician. Donobert, Gloucester, Oswald, Toclio, they all pass. Everybody in this class passes over the stage, apart from the clown, presumably. The people who remain on stage, however, for the scene that we're now going to go into, we have remaining Donobert, Gloucester, Edwin, and Cador.
Come, Gloucester, I don't like this hasty marriage.
He was quickly wooed and won. Not 6 days since arrived an enemy to sue for peace, and now crowned Queen of Britain. This is strange.
Her brother, too, made his quick speed in coming, leaving his Saxons and his starved troops to take the advantage while 'twas offered. For heaven, I fear the king's too credulous. Our army is discharged too.
Yes, and our general commanded home. Son Edwin, have you seen him since?
We seem to have lost our Edwin. I don't know what happened there, but we seem to have lost one. Who is?
Anyone seen my son Edwin?
No, oddly enough, we haven't. I don't know what Edwin does not appear to be available. I don't know who is Greg still here? I don't know if Greg's going to actually say some dialogue in a moment, but if you're still here, Greg, could you read Edwin for the moment?
Let me just find where you are, because I jumped up ahead a little bit.
Middle of 17.
Middle of 17. Sorry, guys. Right, one page
Kind of
up.
session. Zoom seems to be chucking people.
He's come to court, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
He's
As
come
I was
to court.
saying,
I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. Son Edwin, have you seen him since?
Sorry. He's come to court, but will not view the presence, nor speak unto the king. He is so discontent at this so strange alliance with the Saxon, as nothing can persuade his patience.
You know his humour will endure no check. No, if the king oppose it, all crosses feed both his spleen and his impatience. Those affections are in him like powder, apt to inflame with every little spark and blow up all his reason.
Edol of Chester is a noble soldier.
So he is, by the rood, even more ever most faithful to the king and kingdom, howe'er his passions guide him.
And enter Edol with captains.
See where he comes, my lord.
Welcome. Bravo.
Do not deceive me by your flatteries. Is not the Saxon here? The league confirmed, the marriage ratified. The court divided with pagan infidels, at least part Christians, at least in their commands. Oh, the gods! It's a thought that takes away my sleep and dulls my senses, so I scarcely know you. Prepare my horses, I'll away to Chester.
What shall we do with our companies, my lord?
Keep them at home to increase cuckolds and get some cases for your captainships. Smooth up your brows. The war has spoiled your faces, and few will now regard you.
Preserve your patience, sir.
Preserve your honours, lords, your country's safety, your lives and lands from strangers. What black devil could so bewitch the king, so to discharge a royal army in the height of conquest, nay, even already made victorious, to give such credit to an enemy? A starving foe, a straggling fugitive, beaten beneath our feet, so low dejected, so servile, and so base as hope of life had won them all to leave the land forever.
It was the king's will.
It was your want of wisdom that should have laid before his tender youth the dangers of a state, where foreign powers bandy for sovereignty with lawful kings, who being settled once to assure themselves will never fail to seek the blood and life of all competitors.
Your words sound well, my lord, and point at safety, both for the realm and us. But why did you, within whose power it lay as general with full commission to dispose the war, lend ear to parley for the weakened foe?
Oh, the good gods!
And on that parley came this embassy.
You will hear me?
Your letters to declare it to the king, loath of the peace and all the conditions, brought by this Saxon lady whose fond love has thus bewitched him.
I will curse you all as black as hell unless you hear me. Your gross mistake would make wisdom herself run madding through the streets and quarrel with her shadow. Death! Why killed ye not that woman?
My lord.
The great devil take me quick. Had I been by and all the women of the world were barren, she should have died ere he had married her on these conditions.
It's not reason that directs you thus.
Then I have none, for all I have directs me. Never was man so palpably abused, so basely martyred, bought and sold to scorn. My honour, fame, and hopeful victories, the loss of time, expenses, blood, and fortunes all vanished into nothing.
Rage is vain, my lord. What the king does, nor they nor you can help.
My sword must fail me then.
Against whom will you oppose it?
What's that to you? Against all the devils in hell to guard my country.
Oh, these are airy words.
Sir, you tread too hard upon my patience.
I speak the duty of a subject's faith, and say again, had you been here in presence, what the king did, you had not dared to cross it.
I'll trample on his life and soul that says it.
My lord!
Oh, come, come!
Now, before heaven!
Dear sir!
There! Thou liest beneath thy lungs.
No more, son Edwin.
Oh, I have done, sir. I take my leave.
But thou shalt not, you shall take no leave of me.
For wisdom's sake, my lord.
Sir, I'll leave him and you and all of the court and king, and let my sword and friends shuffle for Edol's safety. Stay you here and hug the Saxons till they cut your throats, or bring the land to servile flattery. Such yokes of baseness Chester must not suffer. Go and repent betimes these foul misdeeds, for in this league all our whole kingdom bleeds, which I'll preserve or perish.
Exeunt, Edol and captains.
See how his rage transports him.
These passions set apart. A braver soldier breathes not in the world this day.
I would his own worth do not court his ruin. The king must rule, and we must learn to obey. True virtue still directs the noble way.
And before anyone else enters into the scene, I think we should discuss Edol. I kind of, the Earl Chester is a blunt chap, I wouldn't recommend as a diplomatic policy to. Why the hell didn't you just kill her?
What?
It was just like just going. You shouldn't let him marry it. Well, what can we do? Just kill her. Just death, murder. God, I don't know why I bother. I've just been out killing Saxons. You've just done this. He's not wrong, but what we've got here is this sort of debate about what do you do when the king, who you must follow and you shouldn't rebel against, does something dumb. And what can you do about it? And not a lot, apart from rant and rave and go off in a huff, which is sort of what Edol's doing here. So, yeah. Thoughts about that little scene? Lynn?
Yeah, this has got to be funny. I mean, Edol comes in ranting and raving, and then there's this little it's all your fault. No, it's all your fault for letting her come in the first place, so the courtiers and the soldier trying to blame each other for this fiasco. I don't know why you would want to try to play this straight, but it would be hard to do.
Other thoughts, Alexandra, and then Alan.
I think, again, without judging whether it's intended for comedy or not, I think structurally it's very tight. But that there's something this section is what I mean. And there's something very, very beautifully concise about how the dialogue goes, both in terms of that it just sort of rattles on, even in the bits that are, slightly longer speeches. It feels very much like it's hurtling forward. But also just the actual content of the dialogue is so simple. I don't like this. Yeah, me neither. Have you seen the general? He's angry about it as well. And here he comes. He has a whole rant. They all get angry with each other. They nearly threaten each other's lives. He leaves and they go, yeah, there he goes with his anger.
And they all agree with each other. I mean, this is what I love about this argument. They're all agreeing, but they're arguing with each other about the thing they agree about.
And what I love is, I mean, we stopped just before it, but the very next line after this entire moment is why is the court so dull? Which I think clearly means there's got to be either this is tense and that's the sort of relief, or that's the payoff of this entire comedic build-up.
I mean, and this is where because I think Sarah was talking about maybe the king feeling quite young. I think here the king is feeling very old. I think the king is not really in touch with what's going on around him, especially taking on a much younger bride, for example. Is sort of there's something about that which is interesting potentially. Alan, then Brian, then Eric.
Yeah, I was just thinking Edol certainly never knowingly underplayed. Over the top is the default setting, and up from there.
Brian.
Somewhere we were told the king is young, weren't we? Didn't someone refer to him as young?
Oh, did we miss that?
I'll look for it. If I can find it, I'll put it anyway.
We made that assumption at the beginning, certainly.
We were discussing that assumption, but
no, I mean, I thought I remember.
Does the text tell us that? If the text,
if I can find it, I'll put it in the comments. The other thing I was going to say was, and I was just agreeing with everyone else, about how simple and how effective the play is. We've heard 3 different setups where somebody gets to tell us how bad what the king is doing is. The first is when the king is seduced and his nobles immediately say, oh, don't do it. That's a terrible idea. And that's kind of amusing for us because they're so direct about it. And then a little later, we bring in an external authority and the hermit stands there and pronounces from, the point of view of heaven, this is doom. And that's a new twist on how to say the same thing. And now here we have the angry general coming in with great excess and making the same statement again. This king has no leg to stand on, and it keeps being fresh material each time it comes to us. There's a new way to make us amused by these pronouncements. I'm leaning on the comedy side too here.
Yes, and Alexandra has indeed found that passage. His grace, though young, doth bear within his breast. So yes, he's a young king surrounded presumably by experienced counselors and experienced generals who are telling him, don't do the thing. And he's not listened. Eric, and then Lynn.
I mean, if you wanted to play it like that way, you could, in a modern context, I think he would just totally be the influencer who marries, the sort of social media influencer who marries, I don't know, some top model, because he likes the way she looks rather than, for any other reason. And he hasn't, because influencers are the ones who set the trend. No one else, he wouldn't care what the other people think. So yeah, I think that's how it would work.
Lynn, then Sarah.
I was just going to say, I don't remember a reference to the king's age per se, but the king himself to say, "Oh, you're old. What would you know about it?" Implying that he's not old.
Yeah. Okay, we have established approximate relationship of ages. Sarah, then Helen.
Yeah, and I also think it can work the other way around, which, you know, as we've established is probably what's happening. But like, there's the thing of, yes, the old dude who doesn't really know what's going down with the kids at court is kind of out of the loop. But that you could also flip that on its head. If you've got someone who's very young, surrounded by older courtiers, he's you know, the adults in the room are talking over his head. You know, there's that dynamic going on as well. And I think that's probably what's going on here. They're all kind of whispering to each other and going, "Oh, this is not going to work. This is not a good idea." But he's like blithely oblivious.
Yes, I mean it's not dissimilar to Richard II in Jack Straw or Thomas of Woodstock, where, you know, there are experience. You know, there's almost a Thomas of Woodstock quality to Edol. Actually, he's slightly more violent, but you know, he's you know, there's a similar sense. Helen.
If we're looking for a contemporary disapproved of royal marriage, we can look at the Spanish match, in which case we're getting game of chess vibes. Game at chess, I beg its pardon.
Yes, no, I think there are variant actual slight variant titles in that, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, what I mean is that the idea of marrying an enemy, a youngish prince. I mean, I'm not sure whether James was completely. He went a bit doolally towards the end of his reign. I'm not sure where he was in 22, but I mean, this was a current political problem: the marriage of Charles.
Oh yes.
To an enemy. Who was, in Protestant terms, not really Christian. Yes,
especially as you've got you've got the crossing over to Spain of Charles and Buckingham to try and make the match happen and all of that stuff, which is just about to go down. I think it's next year, I think. So it's, you know, it's all this stuff is in the ether, so it does feel like it could be quite pointedly doing that thing of political commentary. I think that's very plausible. Especially if it's by Prince Charles's men. So my God, it's not necessarily a way of making yourself popular with your patron. Right, let's get a little bit further into the scene. We have just a little snippet of stuff I think we'll try and get through. So there's some loud music. Enter Aurelius, Artesia, who I'll ask Helen to read, Ostorius, Octa, Proximus, Oswald, and Hermit.
Why is the court so dull? Methinks each room and angle of our palace should appear stuck full of objects fit for mirth and triumphs to show our high content. Oswald, fill wine. Must we begin the revels? Be it so then. Reach me the cup. I'll now begin a health to our loved queen, the bright Artesia, the royal Saxon king, our warlike brother. Go and command all the whole court to pledge. Fill to the hermit there. A most reverend Anselm will do the honour. First, to pledge my queen.
I drink no healths, great king, and if I did, I would be loath to part with health to those that have no power to give it back again.
Mistake not, 'tis the argument of love and duty to our queen and us.
But he owes none, it seems.
I do to virtue, madam. Temperate minds covet that health to drink which nature gives in every spring to man. He that doth hold his body but a tenement at will bestows no cost but to repair what's ill. Yet if your healths or heat of wine, fair princes, could this old frame or these crazed limbs restore, or keep out death or sickness, then fill more. I'll make fresh way for appetite. If no, on such a prodigal who would wealth bestow?
He speaks not like a guest to grace a wedding.
No, sir, but like an envious impostor.
A Christian slave, a cynic.
Enter Toclio.
What virtue could decline your kingly spirit to such respect of him whose magic spells met with your vanquished troops and turned your arms to that necessity of fight which the despair of any hope to stand, but by his charms had been defeated in a bloody conquest?
'Twas magic, hell-born magic did it, sir. And that's a course, my lord, which we esteem in all our Saxon wars, unto the last and lowest ebb of servile treachery.
Sure, you are deceived. It was the hand of heaven that in his virtue gave us victory. Is there a power in man that can strike fear through a general camp, or create spirits and recreant bosoms above present sense?
To blind the sense there may, with apparition of well-armed troops, within themselves are air, formed into human shapes, and such that day were by that sorcerer raised to cross our fortunes.
There is a law lulls us that words want force to make deeds void. Examples must be shown by instances alike, ere I believe it.
Oh, 'tis easily performed, believe me, sir. Propose your own desires, and give but way to what our magic here shall straight perform, and then let his or our desert be censored.
We could not wish a greater happiness than what this satisfaction brings with it. Let him proceed, fair brother.
He shall, sir. Come, learned Proximus, this task be thine. Let thy great charms confound the opinion this Christian by his spells have falsely won.
Great king, propound your wishes then. What persons, of what state, what numbers, or how armed? Please your own thoughts, they shall appear before you.
Strange art. What thinkst thou, reverend hermit?
Let him go on, sir.
Wilt thou behold his cunning?
Right gladly, sir. 'Twould be my joy to tell that I was here to laugh at him and hell.
I like thy confidence.
His saucy impudence. Proceed to the trial.
Speak your desires, my lord, and be it placed in any angle underneath the moon, the centre of the earth, the sea, the air, the region of the fire, nay, hell itself, and I'll present it.
We'll have no sight so fearful. Only this, if all thy art can reach it, show me here the two great champions of the Trojan War, Achilles and brave Hector, our great ancestor, both in their warlike habits, armour, shields, and weapons, then, in use for fight.
'Tis done, my lord. Command a halt and silence, as each man will respect his life or danger. Armel, Lesmith.
Enter spirits. Ooh. Say again, spirits.
I said, quid vis?
Attend me.
The apparition comes. On our displeasure, let all keep place and silence.
And within there are drums and marches and stuff. But we're not going to continue with this scene. We're going to stop there at this cliffhanger of spirits doing crazy things because we have run out of time. Because we lost 10 minutes earlier because of a technical snafu. But we have got a bit of Friar Bacon style action here, haven't we? We've got a magic off between Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. As it's like which you won because of magic. It was sorcery. No, it was Christian magic, so it was fine. And slash a bit of Dr. Faustus in there as well, in the sense of conjuring specific spirits from antiquity, who are, of course, in some people's cases, actual ancestors of the people on stage, characters on stage, according to the original logic of Geoffrey of Monmouth. So yeah, it's interesting. We've got this bit. The king comes on and says, "Who's gonna taste me wife? Who's gonna taste me wife? You, the person who's explicitly told me that it was a terrible idea to marry her. Why don't you say something nice about her?" He's not very good at picking people, is he? He's like with Gloucester earlier. It's just he explicitly picks the person who doesn't like the situation the most to ask them to do things, and it's like, yeah. He speaks not like a guest to grace a wedding. This is remarkably. Actually, I mentioned Woodstock earlier. Thomas of Woodstock also has a terrible wedding speech as well. So there's a really interesting crossover there. Just a sort of echo. I don't think it's a specific reference. Anyway, Alexandra.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up further to your point about the people he's choosing are the people who are most opposed to the thing that he's trying to make them do. I think that's a really interesting character feature. I think that would be something completely contrasting this idea that we are getting a little bit in the comments, and that is the kind of the easier superficial reading of him as a character, that he's kind of clueless. He's not just blind to the women's wiles, he's blind to everything that's going on around him, and completely sort of disconnected from the world that he's ruling. I think it's much more interesting if he's actually a really cunning and twisted kind of person, who is just ordering people around and tyrannizing his country to get and his advisors to get his way, because that would make more sense of the conflict they have earlier, where they go, "Why didn't you tell him it was a bad idea?" Well, why didn't you tell him it was a bad idea? Because nobody dares.
And in this scene, we finally meet the brother-in-law effectively now, because we meet Ostorius, the opponent, and of course we keep getting these little asides or these little lines from them suggesting that this isn't this peace that has been brokered might not be very stable. It doesn't look like things are going to go well going forward. And I think as we go into final thoughts, and it'll be an interesting question whether we get round to everyone for final thoughts, is that question actually we brought up earlier. I don't think we can probably get a proper sense of the play overall yet. It does have a relatively consistent tone, in the sense that we think it's mostly quite light. Yes, there are serious things going on, but the lightness of tone seems to be throughout it, that perhaps this is aiming more for laughs than not. So yes, there is this question of tone throughout the play and what the play is trying to do, of which we don't necessarily know yet. But it's definitely caught my attention. It does have its problematic moments. It's frustrating because all of the business with Joan and the clown is incredibly well structured. It's very well put together. It is a very good bit of comedy business. It's just really not good for us today, and it's baked in. There's nothing you can do about that. You basically have to say to an audience, you have to accept what this clown is doing and what this world is doing, because you can't trim it out, because then there's no scene. I mean, you can just cut it or not. You can't really, because it's the title of the play, which is quite difficult. So I'm not asking for solutions to this problem yet, but we will come back to it later on, because there's a lot more data you haven't got yet. So final thoughts around the room relatively swiftly, because we ran out of time. Sarah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to pick on what you just said. I put in the chat earlier, like, is this an enchanted forest? Because there's weird stuff keeps happening, and now you've just said, because it's the title of the play, which I hadn't put together, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I have. So that makes sense that there's this isn't just a guy who he's not just, this is not the story of a guy who's met a girl in the woods, had a quick shag, and now she's pregnant. There's more going on here. There's other forces at work. There's magical forces at work. In which case, would it not be possible, I think, to actually just play up and to really zone in on everything that we find uncomfortable about that scene, you know, and the violence in the scene and the potential darkness in that scene, because yes, it is funny, but if it's also actually very disturbing, then that's going to create that kind of wiggly little conflict in the audiences, in the pits of their stomachs, hopefully, which you maybe want if this is more than just like a lord who's had it away with a peasant. You know, if there's actually something more mysterious and magical and potentially dark going on, then actually if you play up both at the same time, if you play up the comedy and the fact that this is kind of actually a violent world, you know, and this guy can care for his sister but also, you know, be incredibly misogynistic and want to beat her, then, like, I don't know, I think that could actually help to feed into a modern audience's sense of throwing them off, you know, so that they are kind of unnerved, not perhaps in the way that the original audience would have been, but they will be unnerved, and that will play into, presumably, you know, the what's happening in the scene.
Brian, any final thoughts?
Not a lot. I'll just say, considering that if summarized, the plot events would seem quite thin. But that I'm much more interested, I find, as we go than I'd have expected, given the thinness of the plot, the kind of fairy tale thinness. It's quite gripping.
Yes. Alexandra, any final thoughts?
Just a thought on the structure. We've pointed out in lots of places that, oh, this is a little scene or section that is really well structured. I think overall there's something really good structurally going on. And I would like to forward a theory that is counter to an earlier theory about the structure of lines of dialogue specifically. We have some very simple, very clear dialogue now in the later scenes, in massive contrast to that early dialogue from certain characters that we were seeing that felt very convoluted and very sort of, and I'm wondering whether that's meant to indicate that those are characters that are very erudite, or that they are, there's something about their state of mind, or anything like that, because we now have, for contrast, much easier to follow dialogue as well.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really interesting observation. I thought that was just me. It's like I was getting tuned into it, but yeah, the syntax seems to have settled down into a more recognizable form, that kind of thing. Yeah, I wonder if the effect of that might be that the ultra formality of the world when the play starts is starting to break down. That we're getting closer to sort of raw emotions and the elaborate language of the court, although it wasn't at court where some of the most difficult text appeared. But yeah, there's something breaking down. That civilization is being undermined a little bit, and that's reflected in the more sort of direct language. Like a thought. But I do keep thinking about Sarah's observation. There's something like very teenage about this. It does have sort of a school play feel about it. It's got an enormous cast. Few of the parts are really big, so you know, there's lots of people that can be involved, but nobody's got too much on their plate. There's just something a little High School Musical about it. But that's not meant as a criticism. That I think that there's something really fun about that. Ooh, set in the mists of Avalon, the distant past. Although the title of the play is The Birth of Merlin, and we haven't heard fuck all about Merlin yet, so that's a little confusing.
Or the child hath found his father. So there's two titles for the text, and in fact, the child hath found his father might be closer to the original rather than the Birth of Merlin. But we've encountered shifting play titles before. Greg, any final thoughts? Nope, you're good. Helen, any final thoughts?
No, I just except that I'm enjoying returning to magical country. I haven't been in magical country for some time. It's good to be back.
Yes, and in fact, we will get definitely. There's no spoilers to say there will be more magic to come. Literally, when we return next time, I literally stopped us at the point of a dumb show. So, which I'm terribly sorry, but you can
It's in the
rejoin
middle
us.
of magic, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, the magic will happen again. It's fine. Alan, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, it's moving at a nice pace, and it's relatively clear in terms of its setups, which is a pleasant change after the piece we did last week. And it'd be interesting to see how it develops, but it's far too early, I think, for final thoughts on it.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot more data to get out of this one. Eric, any final thoughts?
Well, I was thinking about the stuff that we were talking about, like with the really uncomfortable scenes of the clown and Joan and all that stuff. And like we've had it before in plays that are still performed today, like, "'Tis Pity She's a Whore" or Mother Bombay and stuff, which obviously I think Mother Bombay predates this substantially.
Yes.
But like, yeah, this sort of, that maybe there's no physical violence against women in those, but I can't remember. Maybe "Tis Pity She's a Whore." Anyway, but it's kind of that element of it depends if you could sell it to the audience as part of the plot. And like, I mean, the John Ford one, especially, "Tis Pity She's a Whore" is very sort of like he's considered a lauded playwright in his own right, which is probably why he's stageable, whereas stuff like Rowley or Rowley, depending on how you want to pronounce it, isn't quite as well known. I feel. I don't know. Does it have a performance history? Questions.
Questions which will be answered another time, but they are good questions. Yes, I mean it's an interesting thing that clown scene is, it's got. The physical violence can be tweaked very straightforwardly. It's the relationship, because there are some really nice moments from Joan herself. There's some interesting stuff in that, but mixed in with other stuff, which was a lot more awkward. I kind of wonder actually what would happen to that in workshop, and play with what's going on there. Because clearly the author has spent a lot of time on that sequence, possibly because he was playing the clown. Not that isn't 100% a certainty, but it's a pretty high probability because he was well known for that kind of thing. So you can see why it's so well turned out, even if we don't necessarily approve of what it's doing. Aliki, any final thoughts?
I'm inclined to agree with Sarah, as usual, that whatever makes us uncomfortable in those scenes needs to be leaned into, partly because I'm not interested in Baudelarizing the past for a modern audience, and partly because there's something really interesting in that discomfort, and let's play with it.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's partly how we frame it, is partly how we set up for an audience as to what we get out of it. I think it's a very interesting scene that we should explore more, and certainly we will explore that because there'll be more from the clown and Joan anon. So we will have more data with which to play with. We have run out of time. This session went a bit wrong, but we got some good stuff out of it. I think we got there in the end. and we hopefully will be able to find out more. If you've enjoyed this and you'd be interested in perhaps becoming one of us and joining us and reading these plays, not just watching it on YouTube or listening to it, you can actually join us. There are sign-ups available. There's a form on our website. You can join, and it's entirely free, and anyone can join. You don't even have to read. You could just sit in the background and watch live, because there's a good year or so gap between when we record these and when they go out. So, this is all in the distant past. I mean, for all I know, the civilization has ended by the time this video actually goes out. It's entirely possible. Anyway, on that cheerful note, all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Live ever in the sanctimonious way.